Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Aamir Khan, Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
This episode we're reviewing Dil Chahta Hai. How did we come about this? This episode we just wanted to bring the poll back, right, guys? That's how we did
So I think we've been doing like guest episodes for long, and Asim, you suggested like we should just do one with us three only, and Amrita suggested like let's pick up a Khan movie each and then let poll decide.
Amrita picked one that we were sure the moment she picked it that this is the one that's gonna go. Like there was no way people were gonna vote Patthar Ke Phool.
Or
Dil Chahta is next to it. Ram Jane, we came ill-prepared to this poll. Basically.
Or as people would call it, a bias hai. This podcast is so biased.
I also was like... I also love that like people online knew immediately which of us had picked which one.
Yeah.
I put that question up thinking there might be some challenge there, but people know us, man. They know us. Especially, Abdullah, he got us like within 5 minutes. He got all the right answers. But the other thing is also when we had Dil Chahta Hai, that one, we were thinking I was thinking maybe we should have brought on a guest that knows a lot about films and can speak more knowledgeably about it because this movie deserves it. And the second worry I had is hasn't everything been said about Dil Chahta Hai already? So what are we really adding to the conversation here? So those are the kind of caveats I'm already putting into this episode. And I watched the movie and I didn't do any research on this one at all. I don't know about you guys.
This movie is we've already been through the era of celebrating 10 years of Dil Chahta Hai. I think next year it does 20 years. So I think that's the time when we can replug this show. And we are always ahead of time, man. Preparation wise, no. I just have some minor notes on stuff that I really enjoyed whilst watching this again after such a long time. But I think, yes, it would have been a totally different conversation to talk about Dil Chahta Hai from a very craft perspective. And we have lots and lots of people who are much more knowledgeable than us three. But we shouldn't be, we are quite good audience as well. We can assess the movie the way we do. Which is more fun.
What about you, Amrita? Did you do any research or any reading, or did you barely watch the movie?
I mean, I saw it this morning, so...
Wow, 3 hours this morning?
I'd forgotten that it was 3 bloody hours long.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
All this
long,
cinema, nonsense PR that had me thinking that it was 2 hours long, and then Sunday I sat down to watch, and it was 3 hours. I'm like, what the hell?
So I watched an interview with Ritesh and Farhan on a 10-year celebration, whatever, and he was being asked about what got left out in the edit table and changed because of initial screenings. No, there was a lot that has been cut down. So it has been cut down from an initial runtime of however long it was to 3 hours 4 minutes. So just imagine.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Initially, it was 78 hours long, this movie.
Yeah.
They actually made a Turkish drama and then they turned it into a Bollywood movie.
Oh, man.
Looking at the haircuts, it does look like a Turkish drama.
Oh my god. So can I just start off by talking about the fashion, because it is amazing. Between this movie and Dhoom 3, I've noticed that Aamir actually leads with his pelvis when he's doing his dance moves. And in this particular movie, he has this giant belt buckle. So it's particularly shiny and giant. and like it brings like extra focus. Like in that, that's that dance move that they have in Koi Kahe, where they're like sort of rotating
the air humping.
Yeah, they're like rotating their hips.
Yeah.
And Saif and Akshay are doing it like, like human beings. And like Aamir is doing it like a haiwan. I'm just like, "Ye kya kar raha hai?"
But that's because Akash is in Heaven. That's why he's doing it.
He's such a douchebag. My God.
Such a douchebag.
Yeah.
Oh God. Also, I gotta say, like, Saif is a really bad dancer too. Like, I just sometimes like...
Yeah, he does not have the sense of beats.
He has no rhythm, right?
Yeah.
And Akshay is such a good dancer. Like, you forget the launch he got at the start with Himalaya Putra. Like, he was like a molded actor, like action and dancing and everything together. And it didn't go well because he lost his hair. But that's the reason, right? There's no other reason. Is there?
Well, he should have done what everybody else did and like gotten like a toupee, like, from...
He tried to float that toupee boat. It didn't go far.
I think,
So sad.
what was that movie? Hamraz?
Ajnabi?
Hamraz.
Yeah, he had a
Hamraz.
few toupees, yeah.
Hamraz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but like, I don't have hair, so I investigate these things. Like sometimes like it's lost. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like if you have like losing a bit in the back or a bit in the front, you can still like graft and get like hair. But his case was total loss. Like he has like, like nothing in
Just
top and you
genes,
can't
man.
do anything. Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons why he didn't like make it, was just so unfortunate. But yeah, the pants are terrible. And the fashion also, like this movie was so fashionable. This movie is so fashionable.
Yeah, it's like stuck in amber. It's that thing, right? Like when you try and be trendy and then you just ended up dating yourself, when a few years pass by because it's so much off its time. Because I remember when this movie came out and everybody was like, oh my God, like everybody's hairstyles, everybody's makeup, everybody's like look.
T-shirts and jeans, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a huge thing, when this movie came out. And then I was looking at like Dimple Kapadia and she's like the only person. Dimple Kapadia and Suhasini Mulay. How do you pronounce her last name?
Suhasini Mulay, yeah.
Mulay, right? Yeah, Suhasini Mulay and Dimple Kapadia are like the only two people whose style, and also Deepa, actually. I like Deepa's clothes as well. But apart from that, like everybody else is basically a walking disaster.
I was just like constantly thinking of that Shah Rukh line from Kal Ho Na Ho. मैं क्या करूँ स्वीटी, मैंने दिल चाहता है नहीं देखी, मुझे हेयर स्टाइल्स के बारे में कुछ नहीं पता.
But yeah, I think it's a fashion of the 90s 101, this movie. And I think there was a lot of pushback because especially from Saif, who really wanted to not look like some guy from Bandra. He wanted to be more heroic in the way, and they looked on screen the way they talked, but he was like, I'm not doing this and all of that, but he got talked into by Aamir.
Wasn't he a total flop actor when DIL CHAHTA HAI came about?
Yeah, so apparently like he was doing 3 movies as lead and he was totally against the idea of being cast in this third lead, what he called. And Aamir said, this movie has more potential than all those 3 combined. So, you have to do this movie. And he got talked into it by the sage that is Aamir Khan.
But everybody was going through a bad phase. Like even Aamir was going through a bad phase then. And Lagan and this kind of came together at the same time. And it made Aamir 2.0. And he's never kind of looked back, I feel. But
also, you can see how much older Aamir is than the other two. Like, it's just really blatant in some scenes.
What's more annoying is that Aamir is 36 years, Saif is 31-ish, Akshay is 26. And I am older than all of them right now. It's really, really frustrating to see and think, oh my God, I'm older than Aamir Khan in Dil Chahta Hai.
But the thing is, Sujoy, like if anyone ever meets you in real life, they'll never believe it.
Oh.
I was gonna say, I think you look better than Aamir does in Dil Chahta Hai. Like, तुम्हारी खूबसूरती का क्या राज है, Sujoy?
Santur. I don't know if you get that reference, but all the Desis will be howling at my Santur joke.
No, this is like such a time capsule movie, right? I remember also that quote from Karan Johar, who was saying, you know, I was making Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham and I thought this is going to be the biggest film in Hindi cinema, and then Dil Chahta Hai came along.
I know, I have to give Karan credit. Like, he's like very honest about not just the fact that he thought his movie was going to be amazing, but also how he really thought Farhan Akhtar was basically an idiot, didn't know what he was doing, and a total loser. And couldn't even understand why Aamir was doing his movie. And then he saw the movie and he was like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
And
yeah, totally
like,
different like grammar and language of what was prevalent then. Karan was still on that track of making family dramas and all of that.
I feel like over the past 20 years, like Karan's like big thing has been like he just wants to make that Dil Chahta Hai, you know, like he wants to make his version and he can't do it because he's just like, you know, he's Karan Johar and he just can't get that grammar right.
And I love Karan Johar for what he does, you know, but he's like, I think definitely there's like this vibe, like he wants to be part of the cool kids, you know, and he's always had that, you know, Karan always has had that, and he just accept that he's not one of the cool kids, he's just a very rich kid, and I think he should just embrace that.
But also when I was watching this...
you know...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, you know, like the word game changer gets thrown a lot around, right?
Yeah.
But like there's no movie in Hindi cinema like Dil Chahta Hai that is an actual game changer. Like it changed fashion, hair, storytelling, production design, setting, music, so many things, right? Like it spawned a new genre. Like there would be no Wake Up Sid. There would not be 90% of Ranbir Kapoor movies, right? Like, he just changed the game, and I think he was just at the right time, at the right, place. And I think I loved this movie then, and rewatching it, I was a bit apprehensive especially because we were talking with Matt and Aaron from Bollywood is for Lovers, and they actually covered this movie in an episode, I think maybe 2 episodes ago. So check out their thoughts about it from somebody who didn't grow up with this movie and is coming back to it now. And they found lots of issues with it. For me, these 3 hours just flew by. Yeah. I loved being back in this world with these 3 characters. And I think I want to ask this question because I was getting this vibe from Twitter when this one that they want us to ask, has it aged? Are the themes outdated? And also, how does it feel like coming back to it? Like it's a very male movie, like a boys' movie, right?
Yeah.
Has our idea changed? Like, how does it feel for you, Amrita, rewatching this movie now?
Well, I'll tell you, like, it's a comfort watch, right? Like, it's something that is so tied up into a very specific time in our lives that it's impossible for any of us, in my opinion, to have a completely unbiased review of this film because we were all so young, Asim, when it came out, and we were all in like, you know, that early, like late teens, early 20s, like that entire, like very special time in our lives when we were just sort of discovering who we are as people. And then we saw this movie and it completely changed, you know, movies as we knew it, Hindi film basically. And we knew it while we were watching it. It's not like we watched it and then like 10 years later we were like, oh, like that's where we can like date all this back to. We knew it before it came out. Like the moment we saw the songs, we saw the snippets, we heard the interviews, we knew it was going to be special.
Even the cassette cover that it came in was packaged so immaculately, you know.
And these are
we are talking audio tape
remember.
cassettes.
Yeah. And I completely understand why Matt and Aaron didn't, you know, connect much to this movie because it's been remade so many times and it's been improved upon so many times.
Yeah.
That I can understand why.
Has it Sorry, has it improved upon? Which would you think?
Like Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara
Yeah.
is sort of a repackaged, more
Yeah.
polished Zoya version of it.
Yeah. And then, like sections of those plots have been like redone, like Wake Up Sid did it, for example,
Yeah.
So there's definitely, like you were saying, like, 90% of Ranbir's career graph is basically repackaged DCH. But like, I can understand why a generation that grew up on those movies, or a new audience member who has been introduced to the more latest fare, and then they go back to this one and they're just like, well, I don't get it. And also like the douche vibe that like these boys have, like Akshay is the least douchiest, but even he has his moments, where you're just like, why don't you just shut up for a little bit? But like, and then there's Aamir's character is just the douchiest, and he doesn't improve all that much by the end of the movie, to be honest. And you see all of that and you're just like, okay, I can see how this is really a product of its time. So it doesn't surprise me that newer audiences would find it problematic or would find it dated or unrelatable. That doesn't surprise me at all. But I also had like a really good time watching it still, because that's who I am.
So, I wanted to ask you, like, how much are you able to identify with these three characters? The three boys that are like kind of centrally. Because for me, as a guy, I feel I have aspects of all three of these men, like that. I have been and can be the Akash, I can be the Sid, and I can be the Samir. But I don't know, does that work in the same way for you or not?
I don't know, like, because I grew up in a very small town, and the time when Dil Chahta Hai came out, I was in my late teens, and this was the year, like, my recollection of Dil Chahta Hai as a point in my life was my first semester of engineering college, when I was going through rigorous ragging, and my seniors were making me dance to Koi Kahe in my undies.
What? This happened to you?
This has happened to me.
Wow.
I've led a very adventurous life in that way. So yeah, the whole baseline of Dil Chahta Hai playing, like, boom, 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 boom. I remember walking into my, like, that was a nightmare fuel-inducing, triggering moment for me. Like, for years, I couldn't hear to that soundtrack.
Wow, dude, that's really traumatic. Like, I'm like so shocked to hear that, man.
And like,
I would totally kick people's ass if they try to do that to you.
I mean, yeah, well, I got my ass kicked. What was I saying? Yeah, dancing in my undies to Dil Chahta Hai and Koi Kahe and Wo Ladki Hai Kahan and all of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I couldn't ever be identifying with these South Bombay dudes from, Cool and stuff. I couldn't. It's still a very detached, characters for me, because I always felt like this was a very, affluent would be the right word,
Yeah, it's a very affluent, like super rich elite kind of movie. Like they're flying first class, they have Mercedeses, they have, Lexus, Jeeps, they're like, like look at their place, the apartments that they're living in. And I also find it funny that so much criticism got leveled at Zoya Akhtar when she was doing Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara and Dil Dhadakne Do, and none of that was really present when Dil Chahta Hai came out. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Right. I think for me, like, it's not the guys that I relate to, because obviously I can't relate to like all the douche bro humor and stuff. Even though I found, like some of those dialogues are iconic in my opinion, like, I still laugh at them. But so the year before DCH came out, my friends and I actually did something very akin to their Goa trip. Like, we got a car and then we drove all over South India. We just went to all these different places, and then we actually got into trouble because one of my friends, Tony, had he had this vacation house up in the hills somewhere, and he was like, yeah guys, you should just come and like hang out and everything. And then so we went there. It was like 5, 6 of us, And it was just me and my other friend Janice, who were girls, and then there were like 4 guys. And then the caretaker of his vacation home called up his parents and said, Tony's here with his friends and like 2 hookers. We were like, what? And then we had to drive all the way back to like Tony's house and like, meet Tony's parents, because Tony was just like
auntie, just us auntie.
We're only doing drugs, auntie.
You were laughing, but it's true.
Yeah.
This was happening. So we were like, I remember like all that kind of stuff, and we ended up in Bombay, and there was some sort of like strike going on somewhere. And we ended up, staying in Bombay for like an extra week. And then we went to Essel World because we were so bored. And we ended up like fighting some random guy who was like hitting on my friend Gaurav's cousin. It was like this entire thing, So when Dil Chahta Hai came out, like I was like, oh, this is basically a tamer version of like our little friend group. So for that and all, like, yes, like it was relatable, and it remains like, that's what I mean. Like, cinema is so subjective, and you never know like what it reminds you of, and what time and place and people in your life that it reminds you of.
I think the whole trip to Goa thing was totally invented, Dil Chahta Hai propelled that movement. Like everybody wanted to go, especially like us engineering boys. After years after graduating, I was working in Pune, and we would like just skip work and go to Goa, have Feni all weekend, and just come back to work on a Monday with a heavy hangover.
But I think for like Bombay people like that, I mean, at least for like film people, I would imagine that was like a pretty common thing for them to just drive down to Goa,
Yeah.
Is that far? How long is that drive?
9 hours?
Yeah, it's not
8,
long.
9 hours, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not that you can do it in one stretch. You have to take a break, I imagine.
That's why they switched the driving in this one.
Yeah. But also, like, you can just stop somewhere and, like, get something to eat or something, or a snack, and then just hop back in and, normal...
Lo navle mein chikki khayenge.
Yeah, we drove to Barcelona. That was our Dil Chahta Hai trip. So we did Zindagi Mile Na Dobara before they did.
Nice.
Okay. Well, I was actually like my last year of college, so I was like 21 when this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, like dreading what's going to happen in a couple of years, and it actually happened. Exactly what Dil Chahta Hai says, that you spend so much time with your friends. And I think this lockdown, and also the age that I'm in now, because we're more of a rock-on age than a Dil Chahta age, where you kind of like have a family and you think about, and I've been doing this during lockdown, just kind of like the friendships I lost.
Yeah.
And why that was. And I think in the movie, they have to put some dramatic interval point where something is happening. But I think the tragedy is that most of the time there's no reason, there's no reason, but you just lose touch. You don't get in touch. And like there's people that I used to spend day and night with that I haven't spoken to in 25 years, and it's a weird feeling. And you kind of like go back and think, what happened? Why did we lose touch? And should we get in touch? Like we're like completely different people now. And it was kind of weird rewatching that, because that's the thing with Dil Chahta Hai, that they still look the same, so the time hasn't passed. It's not like Chichore, where it's like 20 years later and they're wearing false beard, or Student of the Year, where life has gone. Like here, they still look the same. I don't exactly know how long they haven't spoken to each other.
Couple of years.
Yeah, but that kind of time element is not there. So it was, it really kind of hit me. And I definitely know phases where I have definitely been the Akash, I've definitely been the Sameer, and I've definitely been the Sid. So I could really like connect with all three of these guys, and I think that's why the movie is so special to me. But the second thing rewatching this movie also made me do is get really, really mad at Farhan Akhtar as a filmmaker. Like, because he's clearly so talented, and he's not done shit since then.
Yeah.
Like it's infuriating, and maybe this is like that desi dad in me when you have a kid has so much potential and he's just not using it. Like, you know, he's become like an actor now, and
In quotes.
I don't think any of his acting is on the level of, even I would add Laksh to it, right? Like, I know that movie didn't work for many, many reasons, but I do think it has something special in it.
I really like it.
Yeah, it does. I really like it too. But I think people maybe were hoping from Dil Chahta Hai again, and maybe it didn't work, and Preeti's haircut was terrible, that kind of thing. But then he's just made like 2 Dawn movies and been an actor. And although he's done some good work as an actor, I don't think it's anywhere on par with what he's done with Dil Chahta Hai. And maybe he's a producer now. I don't care about his singing. Like, he's doing all of this shit that I don't care about. Like, yeah, I don't know. It makes me mad. What about you guys?
I mean, same. He's a much better director, and he's like, again, like the craft and the. I guess it comes from the privilege of being born into the Akhtar family and, you know, being in touch with. He's assisted many film directors before he even, you know, filmed his first shot, and so all that filmy information just distills down to what he has laid out. And this movie was like immaculately built within 8. Like, I think the schedule was 108 days from start to finish to get all of that in and edited, the pace and everything. And he's got so many good friends within the film industry, and all of that comes together into making this first film. Doesn't look like a first film at all.
Yeah.
It does like swing a lot. It is doing so many things in many different ways. It's bringing the best out of each of the departments, from cinematography to lighting, sound, sync sound, and the soundtrack by Shankar, Ehsaan, Lloy again. Like, all of that marries well, and I think, it's a lightning in a bottle moment for Farhan Akhtar, and I don't know if. I'm just, again, disappointed in him for not, you know, coming up with something else that measures up to his first attempt at making movies.
I think between the Akhtar siblings, I think Zoya's first outing was definitely a superior film.
Oh, absolutely.
But I feel like Dil Chahta Hai is the more, I don't know how to say it, relatable, popular, iconic. I don't know what to say. Like, you know, like, it's the film that stays with you. Like, you have a closer emotional connect with Dil Chahta Hai than with Luck by Chance. Even though Luck by Chance is a much better film. And
I think for me, like, I got detached with Dil Chahta Hai this time around towards the second half, when it becomes too Aamir heavy. I just drifted off. Maybe I was tired, or I don't know, but it just felt like it was getting a bit too Aamir heavy for me, and the pace just relaxed somehow, and I saw the grip of the director going there, and that's why it's not as strong a film as I remember it to be.
I agree. I think there's like a couple of sequences in that I think I can see why Farhan leaned in so hard with that particular bit. I mean, that was a big budget section, right? Like, that's when they're in Australia and shit. But you know that scene in the train station?
Yeah.
That is an amazing scene where, like, they're on either side of the doors.
So good.
And
so good.
Like, without a single line of dialogue, the two of them just realize so many different things.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect scene. And then he comes back, and then he, you know, squares up to that homeless person. And just a tip to, like, young ladies everywhere, and even young men who aren't that familiar with public transport. Rule number 1 of public transport is to never make eye contact. You do not make eye contact with anybody. Friend, foe, homeless person, businessman, it doesn't matter. Do not make eye contact, and your life will be so much easier. But, you know, like, he comes up, and, like, the movie builds up to make you expect one, you know, a certain outcome. And then he just, like, turns it into a joke. And you can see, like, their relationship change from that moment on. And I can see, like, why like that, for that particular scene to work, you do need a certain arc to build up between the two of them. So I can see why he spent that much time on their relationship. But you're right, like the Aamir heavy portion of the second half is entirely unnecessary.
But I think one of the problems is also that the other two arcs, they are easy. Like there's no resolution necessarily to it, right? Like the Saif Ali Khan is done. Like they get together, classical rom-com, 80% of the Ranbir movies, and that's done. I can't figure out love. Oh, I found a girl. That's it. I feel I feel Akshay's storyline got a bit shortchanged, but I think it's a sign of the time where they couldn't really push it in any way that was acceptable.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because, the age
Dimple
gap
has to die.
Yeah, and it's not, an age gap isn't that big. They I thought but at that time I think they couldn't get anywhere with it, so she just dies at the end. So that leaves you with the Akash storyline, and I it worked for me because I've had these periods where I've been in loneliness and isolation, and so I could really connect with that. And it does have, the thing is, I don't maybe because it's my identification with Aamir and being an Akash sometimes, that the one you mentioned about the train station, I really liked that, and I liked how he assesses the situation, he acts, and he makes immediately make Preety smile again, by what he does. And the other thing that also made me think is when they're having the birthday party with Dimple, and Aamir takes her and he starts dancing with her, and at the first she's really uncomfortable, but then she smiles. And I was just thinking, this is something that Sid's character, Akshay's character, cannot do.
Yeah.
He's not the person that can just pull a person and make them smile and be blatantly ostentatious and dancing in front of people. And that's why you need an Akash too. And those two segments I really appreciated. And it is that thing where he's an asshole, he's such a douchebag, but I know guys, and I've been that guy where you are an asshole, or it's like a facade that you put up, but when it comes to your friends, you're there, and you can lift them up. And that's why I'm a bit more forgiving towards Akash than I think a lot of other people are, even though he's especially how he treats Deepa is still tough to watch because he's such an asshole about it. And I don't know, I just want good things to happen. Deepa, right? Deepa is her name? Yeah. I just want good things for Deepa.
She gets Sid at the end, doesn't she?
No, that's another
that's
girl.
a different girl.
Oh, that's a different girl?
Yeah.
Wow. For 20 years, I thought that it was Deepa.
No.
Say wow like Saif.
Wow.
But what struck me this time around was we see the three love stories coming together, and when each of them realize when they are falling in love with their partners, Sid falls in love after that birthday party, right, when he realizes it hits him. And for Samir, it's just the first time when he meets Sonali Kulkarni. But with Akash, it's a constant battle for him. He's still trying to realize, and I do get it. Only Preity Zinta can make Akash fall in love, when she's like, "Jaane kyun log pyar karte hain," and she just, turns around with her flying curly hair, and everybody has to fall in love with that.
Way too much product in the hair though. Now
I don't
rewatching it now, it's how wet is that wet look? But yeah, let's quickly break down the individual storylines a little bit. I think let's start with Saif, because I think Saif doesn't get talked about enough. I think in this movie, in this context, I think all of the plaudits go to the other two guys.
I don't know. I praise Saif the most from this movie. I remember his character the most, because he's just a bunch of nerves about to explode anytime. He's so confused and what's going on. And I think that's his persona at this point in time, because he was still trying to make a mark, and all of that professional challenges that he was going to, he was just trying to survive basically amongst these two more established actors. Would you say?
I don't know. I think Akshay. I don't know if he was established. He just was more talented, I guess. But.
But I guess that's what comes across in Sameer's character. Like he is that,
he
bumbling
seems
fool.
younger. Although they say, he.
I think it's just what Sujoy is picking up is like Saif's natural insecurity. I mean, Saif has been like very open about it, in my opinion. Like, he's always talked about how he was an insecure human being and he does douchey things as a result. I think he's calmed down a little bit since he got married to Kareena, just because Kareena thinks like he's wonderful and he's like the smartest, which he clearly isn't. But I think she's good for his ego, and he gets to be like the wiser, older man in her life. But I think apart from that, like when he was with Amrita, I think he really indulged himself in like being like, it's weird. Like, I mean, I don't know if maybe I'm projecting, but basically this entire movie is about these three people needing to get away from each other in order to grow. Because
I think men in general, to be honest, I think if we kind of let go of the toxic friends nucleus that we can kind of create as guys, we can actually be different people out of that nucleus, because a lot of times our friendship are just based on who's closest to us or who plays a certain game, and then we get locked into those
who can reassure us of our own douchey behavior and still play game with it.
And we get locked into these characters and these roles that we play with each other. And I think it's very hard for us to then grow that friends group. It's something that I sometimes even struggle with. And like at 40 now, we are having conversations with my friends that we would never be able to have 20 years ago. And we should have had them 20 years ago. So... sorry, Amrita, I cut you off about Saif.
No, this is very interesting. I think that's basically it. The three of them are so locked into their own characters and the roles that they each play within the friendships that they need to go away from each other and discover who they are. And the way they do it is that they discover who they are. Well, Akash discovers it with Shalini, like who he can be as a human being. And he also has the slowest arc, because even after he falls in love with Shalini and, she tells him to ask her why she is choosing to marry Rohit, even though everyone can see that Rohit's an asshole, he still needs his dad to be like, hey, like, how about you just ask her what's up? Like, why are you being such a douche? Because Akash's big thing is that he literally can't communicate. Like, he's like so many guys that I know. Probably you guys know too, who just can't express themselves. Because
we were these guys.
Because they're just so locked into this idea of masculinity and like what it means to be a man, and like you can't express yourself and it's weak to express yourselves, and that's who Akash is. And then there's that scene where, he's still not talking to Sid and he's passing by their old college and he looks at their memory of who they used to be, and like old Akash is looking back at him and like shaking his head like, you're such an idiot. And those are the tiny little moments, that make me still like this film so much, because it's so true to life and to the people that we know.
I liked also rewatching it now that, like, when he's leaving for Australia, he apologizes to Saif's character, but he actually is apologizing to Akshay's character, right? And I thought that was kind of sweet, that he is trying, but he's so locked into the person of jock, alpha, college ka hero kind of, thing. That he can't. I also really like that Saif was the one that he expresses how much he was struggling with his loneliness when his friends go away, and it's like, in a way, he's kind of like the dumbest one or the himbo out of the crew, if to use those words, but he is more in touch and he is able to express to Sid that without you guys I just felt lonely and then I fell in love. And I thought that was quite sweet. He also has the best hair, Saif, out of all the three.
And he's got the best lines of the movie as well.
Yes.
Like the whole "Hi Priya, maine to kab se kahe," that is still a killer scene.
And the Christine thing, that was still so funny.
मुझे तो लगता है वो स्विट्जरलैंड की भी नहीं है.
Or even before that, where he's like, if I move to Switzerland, I'm going to start keeping bees. And
bees. And the sincerity where he says that this is actually a good idea.
I made me think like, oh, this what happened to Mansoor Khan, right?
I think this actually like when Sonali Kulkarni walks in and she looks at the photo of them. I think there actually is like a photo frame with Tiger Patodi in it. Like,
okay.
I feel like there was one because it looked like an older but like more distinguished Saif, and I was like, oh, is that Tiger Patodi? Yeah, but I wrote in my notes that Saif's character is the most emotionally stable of all of them because he can actually express himself and be like, I want this, I don't want that.
Yeah. I really liked Sonali Kulkarni in it too. I feel like we didn't see enough of her in cinema.
Yeah.
And my problem was, I think at least for 3 years of her career, I confused her with Genelia D'Souza.
Oh God.
I don't know why
I see that. Yeah.
Now I see
the eyes.
Yeah, it's just like those two looked very similar to me, I think. But yeah, I think she was just like felt grounded, like a real person in this movie.
Yeah, so expressive. Like she had the minimal lines and she was like, reacting to what Sameer was saying, and just with her eyes she would be like, okay, calm down, chill. You know?
Yeah. When she says, it's okay to call me, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
She just seemed like a real person. Whereas I think with Preety, sometimes she veers towards manic pixie dream girl in the way of writing, Like we don't know who this person is, what she wants, but then that becomes the crux of the reveal of the climax. But I felt like Sonali was really like grounded as a performer. I really like that. Akshay's character, Sid, I think, this is the crowd favorite, right? Like, is it? Yeah.
I don't know, not for me. But...
No, why?
I think he was definitely like the romantic favorite. I think like all the women were just like, oh, because he's like,
Mr.
really,
Mature, Mr. Painter.
Like the scene where he has with Deepa, where he tells Deepa, like if you want somebody when you're in a time of need, then you know that Akash will be there for you. But if you want something more from him, then he just can't give it to you because people can only give so much. And I thought like that was like a very different monologue than we've heard in Hindi cinema before, right? I don't think anybody's ever said that. But also like this movie does like a really good job of saying the logical thing, which is revolutionary, like at the end where Rohit is like, but why don't you care about me and like get me married to her regardless of her feelings? And his parents are like, but why? Like you won't be happy. And it's basically the plot line from Dil To Pagal Hai. But
it is.
But Rohit is a douche.
This is so embarrassing.
Such a douche. He's very like Anshuman level douche. Like, that kind of level.
क्यों जाओगे मैं गन्ने के खेत? क्या रखा है गन्ने के खेत?
Akhtar's siblings are really good at recognizing and like portraying toxic masculinity in their films. Like whether it's Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara or this one or Dil Dhadakne Do, like they're really good at showing these people and then just being like, these people also exist. They just like to sort of pretend like they're better than they actually are. Or even in Lakshya, like Preeti's fiance in Lakshya. They're just they're tiny characters, but they're pretty complex and they're pretty well woven into the story, and I really like that.
I think this is also that first movie where he kind of cut off his mullet, Akshay, and I think I realized that then like how much he acts with his eyebrows. Like they're very like Khalisi level movement going on, they're like all over the place, which was interesting. I really like Akshay. I'm sad that he he didn't get to do much more, you know. So it's a shame. It's a shame. I also love that he's so smitten by Tara, right? Like the moment she kind of steps in his life, he's just like, he plays that like little puppy really, really well. Even when, you know, it's not going to go anywhere, and he just puts his head in his mom's lap. That was sweet. I think there was kind of a really sweet scene where he's like, you know, I'm just going to go away to the farmhouse, and can you come with me, mom, you know? And it's like, really, you're still at that cusp of adulthood and you're not there yet. And also, these are very privileged boys, so their emancipation comes a bit later, right? Like their growing up comes a bit later.
Yeah.
So even though they're like, you know, hatte-katte men, they still resort to being mama's boys. And I think it could be played like in a very weepy way. I think it was done sweetly because just the vibe that they have is really cool. The mom and beta kind of thing.
Yeah. And also, like, just to go back to Tara, I think nobody else could have done that role. She's just so perfectly cast in that. Like, I can't think of any, you know, actress contemporary or prior to her. I don't know who could have played Tara as well as Dimple Kapadia plays it.
Yeah.
Rekha?
Rekha would have been like a bit too much, I feel.
Yeah.
Rekha would have banged him.
Yeah.
But that might have been an interesting development in the story.
Apparently, Rekha was like neighbors to the Akhtars when Farhan was growing up and stuff.
I didn't want to go down this route, but since I wonder how autobiographical this is.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't have all that gossip.
No, not gossip, but just like, you know, like thinking of, you know, like not sexual, but like just the, like an older, well-educated, drinking, liberated woman coming into your life at that younger age, you get mesmerized by it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's just something about that is like very, very, like it marks you as a guy growing up. I think probably you need to maybe be a bit younger to really have that full effect. But I wonder, like, if you are saying Rekha and then, you know, also Shabana Azmi came into his life. And I'm not saying anything, you know, sexual or whatever like that. But it's an interesting way to write what you know. And I think this movie is that rule of write what you know. And I think he does it very, very smartly. So yeah, that's very interesting if Rekha was their neighbor for sure. I'm not sure if I like the art that much that he creates. Like, I'm not that blown away by the portrait like I was with Ehsaan's portrait in Tare Zameen Pe.
Yeah.
You know, that really like hit me, but maybe it's just that era that was 2000 or something like that.
Yeah. But then he went to Kasauli, like smoked some really nice weed, and then his artwork just improved over the decades.
maybe. What else is there? And then I think we spoke a little bit already about the Akash storyline in Australia. Do you find it weird how Aamir Khan eats food in this movie?
I thought it was hilarious.
I don't know if there is some sort of a subliminal message about the character being the only one that eats.
I think so, and he eats in a very kind of like focused, like almost weirdly sexual way. Like he's like he was eating a salad, and it felt like he was eating a steak. Like I was like, how do you do that? Like it has to be an acting choice. Like I don't know. But were you aroused watching it?
That scene where he's eating his breakfast while both his parents are just staring at him. I laughed so hard.
Baba could choose though.
No, there's like, did you guys see Kiran Rao coming in with Deepa?
Yeah. At the hotel.
I missed it, yeah.
Well, like, you know, when they just check in at the hotel in Goa with Deepa, she just comes in and she's like, Akash kidhar hai? Sorry, Amrita, what were we saying?
No, I'm just saying that there's just like all kinds of interesting choices that Aamir makes during this film.
I also love that when they have the fight with him and Sid, he's really angrily listening to Sting.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I laughed.
Holding a tennis racket. Like, I just thought that was also an interesting
It's not
choice.
even a tennis racket. It's like a badminton racket. Like,
Oh, is it a
it's
badminton?
even
Oh, okay.
worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I was no, I really I kind of liked it. I liked the whole movie. I don't know. It's Akash worked for me big time. Even though he is a total douchebag. And I don't think that facial hair helps at all.
No.
Yeah.
that doesn't help. Yeah, I think. What about the music? I think we want to talk a little bit about that, right? Like, they're shot amazingly, all of the songs.
Yeah.
Like, it was funny that Dil Chahta Hai now has a very Khwabon Ke Parinde vibe to it when you kind of look back to it. And I wonder, because Zoya was first AD on this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how much she kind of like just took and then like, I can do this better, I can refine this idea, you know? So it was kind of interesting. What was your favorite song, Sujoy, out of these ones?
I think Jaane Kyun and Wo Ladki Hai Kahan remain my favorite for me. Like, I have traumatic memories of Koi Kahe and Dil Chahta Hai, as you know. So Wo Ladki Hai Kahan is definitely at the happy place I go to. Like, and it's such a treat to watch it every single time. And Farhan Khan is definitely having a blast making these shots. And like, it's great to watch Saif and Sonali emulate the 60s, the Rajesh Khanna 70s and the Rishi Kapoor 80s, you know. It's great.
Yeah. And again, it's something that a lot of movies have done afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Like even in the Shah Rukh movie twice, and then, well, obviously it's all from Patthar Ke Pool. That's where it comes from, but still.
Bhai did it first.
So I did it first.
Yeah.
Amrita, what was your favorite song?
I think to watch it's Wo Ladki Hai Kahan because it's just so much fun. But to listen, it's actually Dil Chahta Hai. Like it's
Okay.
I don't know. Like ever since I first heard it, I've loved that song. And I can imagine what Sujoy went through, and I don't blame him for for hating that song forevermore. But not having any traumatic memories attached to it, I think it's still my favorite.
So apparently they just made this whole soundtrack. They took Shankar, Ehsaan, Lloy, Javed Akhtar and Farhan Akhtar just went to Lonavala to Ritesh Sidhwani's farmhouse or whatever, and they completed the whole soundtrack, lyrics and all, in 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But what a crew, man.
Oh.
What a crew to have together, right?
Yeah.
Like,
For your first movie.
Yeah. And they even tried A.R. Rahman. Imagine if they'd gotten him, you know, like, it would have been, I don't think it would have worked the same way.
No. It's just so experimental and so indie sounding, but yet, I don't know, it just it's cracking, you know, the sounds that they've tried to experiment with, and even the sad song Tanhai is so bass heavy.
I love it.
It's so great. And so like, obviously, Farhan has worked with Shankar in the Breathless music video was directed by Farhan Akhtar.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah, I also like that every song has like a different vibe to it too, you know, like even like Jaane Kyun is like, it wasn't like, you know, the template of it, but the back and forth between lyrics and singing is like really, really cool. And I
Yeah,
also
it's very conversational.
Yeah, and also I like how they play with the Aamir persona in this movie, because you have Udit Narayan singing it, which was the voice for Aamir for so long. And I also like, especially when the first song came along, like the club song, what's
Koi
that
Kahe.
Yeah, Koi Kahe. Again, like, you almost, the way he starts his speech and stuff, it almost feels like the anti-Papa Kehte.
Yeah.
You know? Like, there's these little elements that they kind of play with, but then again, I don't think they're necessarily only Aamir. We've all accepted these ideas into our being, growing up in cinema and growing up Desi at that time. I don't think Papa Kehte Hain resonates with kids now anymore, you know? We're of that age that it meant something to us, but it doesn't. Also, like, my favorite song is, I say, Kaisi Hai Chahiye Rut.
Oh, I hate that song.
You do?
Yeah, I don't like
I
it.
love.
It's beautiful. I sometimes sing it to myself.
Visually the most inventive of them all because it's it's trying to recreate what's that Robin Williams movie where What Dreams May Come, where he goes to the afterlife and everything is an oil paint.
Rotoscoping. Yeah, I think it's called rotoscoping. That like how it's shot like you're in the painting.
Yeah,
but I think they've done whole movies after that. Waking Life they did and a few other ones. But like doing it in a song again, it shows that Farhan had these ideas to kind of do something a bit different than anybody else. It's my favorite song, although the whole soundtrack is so good.
Yeah,
but that one is just kind of like. The beat is so different, like it's like the water in the background and the singing and the voice. It's really that's kind of my favorite. Any other random thoughts? Any other things that we haven't talked about?
So I have something that so it tries to age or tries to time the time that has passed between the characters, right? So when the flashback happens, there are no mobile phones. So it's definitely in the late 90s when the mobiles have not come. And towards the end, when they are meeting again, they are trying to bring that into the conversation to sort of chronicle a time in the early 2000s where mobile phone was the thing, And that's a very interesting thing that I found out.
Also, there's mobile phones, but there's no social media. So that's also the interesting thing, right? We were in that space where you don't know where your friends are because there's no Facebook in a way, right? Like even the friends that I'm talking about that I'm not in touch with, I still know what they're up to, kind of. So it's like when you're not in touch with them, you really are not in touch with them. So it is kind of that time bubble between mobile phones and not really having social media.
Yeah.
Oh, those were such good times. Amrita, any other random scene or sequence that kind of stood out for you? What was kind of like your favorite random shot? I think Abdullah mentioned to us that you also mentioned when he's kind of coming back and he sees the flashback of his friends.
Yeah. There's like tiny little things like that, that, and then there's like shots of Aamir's, when Aamir is trying to break up Saif and Suchitra. In the beginning, and he is just putting chabi on both ends to make them have their big fight, and the camera keeps cutting back to like Saif and Akshay being like completely oblivious of what Akash is doing, and then it cuts back to Aamir's face, and Aamir's basically got his little horns up, and he's basically a little devil. I mean, things like that, like tiny things that just are very...
I think, like in the flashback portions, there are a lot of wide shots when all three characters are in the scene, right? So I think it kind of rewards you with every single rewatch to focus on a different character of how they're behaving. Yeah. It's beautiful to see that. And... like my favorite scenes are with Saif because he is on screen in this movie. Like his comedy is on point and it's it's not subdued at all. He's loud, but yet it's not filmy loud. It's just how people hang out and talk about, stuff that happens. And when he's talking and narrating the whole Subodh story about, 5:55 minute mein hum us traffic signal pe mile the, and that he buys one balloon every single time.
Do you think Subodh is inspired by Karan Johar?
I don't know.
I had like a little vibe of Subodh being like Karan Johar, especially at that era with those black suits and collars and stuff like that. I don't know. Also, I think I like that Subodh is the anti-Rohit. Like they both have fiancés or boyfriend, but they're like completely different aspects of masculinity, and they're both wrong for the women that that you're interested in.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a cool idea too. What also stood out to me, the whole sequence where Shalini invites Akash to have dinner before she leaves India, and Rohit is there, and it's like the most awkward dinner ever. Yeah. And nobody wants Mahesh Mama's kebabs. Like he's just passing the plate and nobody wants it. I kind of like that, especially because it builds up to that final climactic and very kind of Bollywood filmy confession, right? Like it is very filmy.
But Aamir is the most filmy out of everybody in this film, you know?
But it worked for me, even though he's wearing an obscenely transparent shirt to a wedding. Like, it's so transparent. You can see the belt buckle through it and the nipples. It's insane. It's almost like Salman Khan level shirt. Like, usse maang ke aa gaya. But it works. Like, his delivery just how smart is it to use that same speech to show the evolution of Akash, right? And not necessarily growth as a character, but evolution emotionally, that he's now open in front of everybody to sincerely express love, where he wasn't even able to express it in a cold in the confines of a friendship with 3 people. Now he can do it in front of 300 people, like Saif jokingly says. It works, and he delivers, and he's so good. I honestly was thinking, I was like, is this the movie that is going to make Amrita admit that Aamir is quite good? But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're not there yet, unfortunately.
Baby steps.
We still have growth to do.
Like, we have discussed one of the finest Aamir movies, and still we are taking baby steps towards liking Aamir. Oh, dear. Last piece of trivia that I have got after a lot of research that I've done. The voice of Ajay, which is Dimple's ex-husband, and she has an argument on the phone because he does not want her to see her own daughter on her birthday. So the voice is voiced by Raj Zuchi, who is Aamir's family friend, who we've seen in like Tum Mere Ho and Lagan, and even in Qiyamat Se Qiyamat Tak.
Isn't he married to his sister?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Although, can I say, on revisiting, I was like, maybe the dad isn't wrong in keeping the kid away from Tara. Like, because obviously we're seeing it through Sid's eyes, but she is an alcoholic, and she dies eventually from liver cirrhosis, right? And obviously her alcoholism is linked to the separation, I guess. But I don't know, like, I was just like, maybe he's an asshole at that moment for sure, in that phone call. But we are hearing it from Tara's perspective. So, and even Sid says the first thing to his friends when he's confessing that he loves her. He says, she has a drinking problem, and that kind of comes back. So I'm like, I don't know if I would want to send my daughter to her mom if she has such a drinking problem. But yeah, it was just like a random thought I had. Like, I don't know. Okay, I think we're done, right? We're done with this?
Yeah.
Great.
Farhan Akhtar, Kaam Chor, the film.
Yeah.
But again, we were talking about he only made what he knew, and he wrote what he knew. I don't think he knows anything more, He's put it all in.
Next movie is going to be about push-ups and protein shakes. That's what he knows now. Too bad. We lost a filmmaker, I feel. We lost a voice. It's sad. Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ, or also on my YouTube channel, Amrita by the Book.
Sujoy?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at 9e3k.
Great. I'm at Asim Bernie on Twitter. You can follow us at YouPodcasting or KhandaanPodcast.com. Drop us a review, drop us an email, let us know what you thought of this one. And now we'll be back next week with a new episode. So because the awesome new schedule that we have set up. Thanks for listening, guys, and thanks for being with us. Be safe, stay in, wash your hands. Thanks for listening.
Wear a mask.
Bye-bye.